One of the most frustrating things I find in this game is that one small mistake can lead to a whole variety of other problems in your golf swing. Can you imagine that your right elbow can influence the slide in your hips in the downswing? It can also change your club path, and it'll even cause a socket if it's not working correctly. Come back in just a minute and I'll show you how the right elbow should work in the downswing. Welcome back. So as I was saying before the break, one small mistake can cause a multitude of errors. The trick is to actually see what the mistake is and what's causing it. One of the things I see an awful lot, and although we've covered this in past videos, I want to go into a little bit more detail, is basically what the right elbow is doing in the downswing. If you actually look at the job that we're trying to do with the elbow and the right arm, we're trying to get the arm back down so that the shaft is on the shaft plane where it basically started, but the right wrist is bent. Now obviously you've seen a lot of these videos where people are doing this, and what they're doing is holding the angle, and if you look from the front camera that looks really cool. If you look from the back camera it doesn't look so good at all. And the reason is that the right elbow hasn't released. You've not got the right elbow and therefore the right lower arm back on the shaft plane. And the club is going to basically release down the extension of the right lower arm. If you've got it up here, then it's going to be difficult for it to get down onto the golf ball without you pulling the club into yourself and therefore coming from the outside onto the golf ball. So what's the answer to this? Well, the first thing is to understand what's causing it. And this is unfortunately a little bit of a kind of a communication problem between your brain and your right arm. What it's saying is, on one thing, keep the angle in the right wrist, and what it should be saying is keep or lose the angle in the right elbow. What's actually happening is you're keeping the angle unconsciously in the wrist and the elbow. So you really want to get a feeling of getting the right arm down back onto plane without releasing the right wrist. Now I would do that simply to start off with, just with the arm without a golf club or anything in my hands, and just take my arm to the top of the swing. This is this kind of waiter position that we were talking about. And then as you move your left hip back, you want to have the feeling of pressing down with the right arm, as if there was a great big fat pillow here that you're pushing into the ground, you're squashing. And to squash it, you've got to have the hand on the pillow and the lower arm is straightening, the elbow is releasing. Now, we don't want you to straighten the right arm through by the time you get to the right thigh, because obviously then you will be coming a little bit from the outside again, and you would also be losing a lot of direction in your golf swing. But what we do want is for the right arm to loosen out enough so that you get the lower right arm back onto the shaft plane. You'll find then that when the hand releases, it releases virtually in an extension of the lower arm. So obviously if the lower arm is up here, it's going to be extremely difficult to get back at the ball. And if you're not careful, you're going to start pulling in and getting chicken wings, or doing what you see an awful lot of people doing, making room here. So the sliding of the hips could be caused by the right elbow if that's your problem. A lot of players you'll see will get to the top, they'll bring the arms down, or at least bring the elbow down to the right hip, and they will slide the hips over. This will cause a tilt, get you a little bit too much on the inside, but it will get the arms down onto the shaft plane. But you're now coming too much from the inside, and you're going to have to rotate the golf club in order to get it squared up with the golf ball, which can cause pushes and snap hooks. So training this right arm to get down into the right position in time is absolutely imperative for a good release through the golf ball. So the first exercise is basically just to do it with the right arm. You're basically taking the club to, or the feeling of the arm to the top, get the hip back, get the arm down. By the time it reaches kind of the right thigh, you can see that's more or less where I want it. And then if you do that with two arms, just try putting the left hand on top of the right wrist. So you've got left wrist on right wrist and taking it back, and as you pull it down, let the left arm help. Let the left arm help to pull the right arm down. Obviously at this point in the golf swing, you're then going to start rotating, get the arms and the hands moving up from this lower position, and you're releasing through the golf ball, so you could add that exercise to it as well. But most certainly, to start off with, what we're trying to do is just train the right elbow to release without the right wrist releasing. Obviously at some stage then you can add a club. You can see we take the club back on the shaft plane, bring it up parallel to the shaft plane, and then it's this dropping the club down. So these exercise looks very similar to maybe an old exercise that Ledbetter was doing, but instead of doing this kind of thing in the downswing while the lower arm is very high, we're doing this in the downswing and trying to get that lower arm down onto shaft plane in time so that we can then release through the golf ball and up into the finish position. If you do this correctly, you should find that you are hitting the golf ball more consistently. You should also find that you're striking it better. Your hands are lower in impact. You're not coming from the outside. You won't hit as many fat. You should stop pushing and hooking the ball. And if you are prone to the odd socket, if you're very lucky, that might be the reason. And you're socketing the ball because you're just simply holding this elbow angle too long. As ever, it's just one of the myriads of things that we can do wrong in this game, and that's what keeps me in business, I suppose. I will be back with another one of these problems in the very near future. If you like the videos ever, please hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, then please subscribe. And if you hit that little bell, then the bell will actually remind you that I've dropped another video. And finally, I've left my philosophy up here. If you want to kind of read about everything that I explain in these videos, then you can have a quiet read on a Sunday evening. Look forward to seeing you all very shortly. Till then, bye-bye.